about what drives you to wake up every morning, to do the work that you do, to keep women at the center, to not lose that goal, to hold on to the principles who have made you who you are. His Excellency Marco Pontes is the Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation of Brazil. You started your career at 14 years old as an apprentice electrician. I want to hear all about that. You continued your work in the Air Force and was selected by NASA in 1998 to become a mission specialist. You went on to become the first Brazilian astronaut, and in fact, the first professional astronaut to officially represent a Southern Hemisphere country in space. Can we give him a round of applause? Beyond this fascinating career, you are also an advocate for increasing female participation in STEM professions and in the space exploration field. Welcome, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
We're very honored to have you here.
Thank you.
Simonetta, what an honor it is as well to have you here. You are the Director of the Office of the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs. I have heard you speak many times, actually. The way that you talk about your journey as well is fascinating. You are someone who decided very early that you would become an astrophysicist. I want to hear all about how that career unfolded. To me, and for anybody who knows the UN, this is the body for regulating space affairs. This is the body that will determine of what the space exploration future will look like. You are part of the Secretariat, and I see UNOOSA becoming more and more prominent in the UN in the way that we manage space exploration, and I look forward to see how you are going to guide that trajectory of UNOOSA. Like I said, this conversation is about getting to know you. And we're going to start our first question with your personal thoughts on how we bridge the gap in STEM fields and how we ensure that women are included in it. And here I'd be curious for you to share your thoughts with me on this particular point. STEM is one thing, and this is not a new discussion. We talk about women in STEM, how do we get girls in STEM, girls and boys, as we were talking earlier. But space exploration nowadays is becoming much wider than the traditional STEM trajectory. We see companies developing applications, innovations to and I think with the proliferation of technology, this space is becoming wider. So my question to you is, first, how do we bridge the gap in STEM? And how do we ensure that as the space grows and develops in innovation and technology, women are not left out? Mm-hmm. We'll start with you.
Okay. Well,
even though it's ladies first, but
no. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you very much for this invitation, for being here. I'd like to thank all of you for being here with us. This subject is, for me especially, is very, very important. Since I took the office in 2019 in Brazil, one of the major points, one of the priorities was how can we bring science technology into the schools? How can we motivate the kids for science technology careers? And as we imagine, Brazil is a huge country, so we have so many social differences, and besides, of course, the geographic differences, but also social differences. And it's not easy to get a homogeneous education in the entire country. But one thing that we could do from our side in the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation was to elevate the level of STEM education into a level of secretary. So we have the minister, and then we have 4 secretaries. So the second level inside the minister, so the highest level that we can have there. So I created a secretary responsible for promotion and articulation, also popularization of the science. With this, we start with some of the programs that we call Science in Schools, for example, how to bring kids from the basic school inside universities, and how to bring professors of the universities to get in contact with the kids inside the schools, especially with the teachers. So how the teachers could teach science and use even the facilities inside the universities, so to bring the kids there to see real application of science, or the labs who are working. And that was the first step. And then we start with what we call scientific Olympics there, Olympiads there in Brazil. So we could, and this is for all the areas. So it's mathematics, physics, biology, astronomy, astrophysics, economy as well. So we have 62 different Olympics, scientific Olympics in Brazil. And this is good because then you can get the kids in a good way competing and have a good challenge to work. They have contact between them and other countries as well. And so they start seeing a different perspective of science. And this is another point. And then how can we bring more girls inside, especially the mathematics, physics, astrophysics, and other side? Because if you see there for medical school, dentistry, though all this is okay, we have a good number of women. But if you look at those fields in engineering, for example, no. So we have to increase them. It's about 12%. It's still too low. So we start using some of the major scientists, women scientists in Brazil, to talk, to demonstrate the science is cool, is okay, and we do whatever they want in any field. And so with this, we start getting a little by little some results there. Now we have teams, for example, comprised only by girls competing on robotics, in astrophysics, and physics, and this is good, and they have wonderful results. And when you see the results from them, you see other girls. Oh, I can do that too. Why not? So it's not getting better, but it's still a long way to go. I can tell you this, and especially when you get to as we are talking, to that age of 11 to 15, somehow they start, going to other fields. So we have to improve our education in a science education that level. Space now is open, so we have so many opportunities. And when we talk about space, of course, being an astronaut is great. I would like to have a lot of girls and boys, thinking about this. The possibilities is not so distant as in my time there. Brazil had no astronauts. So I say, wow, this seems impossible, but impossible is just an opinion, as we say in many places. So I can do that. And now they can see, they say, wow, I can do that. There's so many people going there. So it's really a good career being an astronaut, but also a space program opens a lot of possibilities for many different careers. And we are looking forward, good talents, to work with us there. I stop here because otherwise I'll talk too much about this. So
Thank you, Excellency. It's I think what you said is really valuable role models are important.
As a woman yourself in STEM, could you tell us
In STEM, could you tell us perhaps of your own personal journey? Were there challenges that you had to overcome? If, you know, I would look at you still as a role model. Someone who went into a field uncharted by many and rose to a leadership position. How did you do it, and what advice would you give to young girls and young women watching?
Well, first of all, it's really a pleasure for me to be here with all of you and to have this opportunity again with my great friend, the Minister of Brazil, of his office. So the point is that on the concept of role model, now, first of all, I'm really 100%, 150% in agreement with what Marcus said. On the side of role model, I never had a role model or someone to follow. It's my way of living. I don't have heroes or something to follow. But okay, you know, each of us is different. So when it started to happen to me that young kids were telling me, I want to become like you, then the first time I was looking around, I'm talking to me because, you know, I was a little bit surprised. And then I started to say, well, you don't have to become like me. You have to develop your own self. And yes, if you want to see what I've been doing, how I've been trying to overcome obstacles, my approach to being of female gender in a male-dominated environment, well, this may be helpful to shrink the time to get to the point, right? Because the more you learn from others, the more you can try to avoid the same mistakes and so learn, in a quick manner, which is always what I'm telling to my son. Your advantage is that, I'm always telling him, your advantage is that I can also, I'm not only your mom, but I'm also, you know, a mentor from a professional standpoint, even if it is a man in a way. And it's probably one of the most, let's say, really supportive of women, one of the individuals that I know, most supportive of women, because really he has been growing in a family where I was, you know, as he always says, you are the best driver in the family, which he was referring when it was as a kid to a real car, but it's, you know, it has different meanings. So having said that, several years ago, I realized that I was seen as a role model. And this is a responsibility in addition to all the others I have already. And so I started really to focus on, you know, I founded this organization, Women in Aerospace Europe, which was not for me, but was maybe for the youngest, right? To get in touch with the senior female leaders in the aerospace sector in Europe. This is federated with other women in aerospace in the world. I'm always looking globally, sorry. And so this also helps to bring together cultures and a different way of doing things. And the other point that I believe is relevant, if we look at how I see my positioning into the aerospace field and my career, I never thought about me being a woman as a showstopper or as a problem. Probably it is a problem for others, but not for me. In the sense that, okay, I'm what I am, and I am the, let's say, the collection of all the experiences and all the relationships and all the, also the mistakes that each of us sometimes know, or failures sometimes. And they're very helpful to understand what is better you don't do in the future, right? So everything is positive at the very end. If you look at this, at the issue from this angle, at the situation, challenge, from this angle, I believe everyone can overcome everything. Now, Marcus is right. something impossible is an opinion, and it seems impossible until it's done, right? As someone was saying. But that's the mindset you need to have. You need to be committed. You need to work hard for what you want. To be really focused on your goal. And the main goal should be to have a good life, to do what you like to do, and to have a job that helps you in doing so, but also helps others. And I believe we are privileged in doing our jobs, because I mean, in having really the possibility to be on this track in our life.
That's good.
Thank you. Beautiful. I want to turn perhaps to this question of stereotypes. You touched upon it very quickly. I agree with you fully that we have to be ourselves and do what we do and have faith. But somehow, when you look at the numbers and you look at the reality, right, you'll see men's participation in certain sectors is much higher than other sectors. And I'm wondering if you could reflect a little on when we talk about space exploration and this push that you're both doing to increase more women in the field and include more women. Is there a specific stereotype that we are battling with?
Yeah, no, but that's for sure. And it's a bias that you can find in men and women. It's not only in men. There are a lot of studies which are very interesting, because if you do some blind evaluation, for example, of candidates for a certain position, and you have let's say a female name or a male name on the same type of let's say test, for example, and you have a committee made by men and women, the result is different. So the questionnaire is the same, the answers are the same, but if the names are different, the result is different. Plenty of studies on that, which means that the bias is a social bias, it's a cultural bias, not only in man's mind, but in general in society. So the only solution for me, being a woman and being a manager, is to, when you have to build a team for a certain goal, the best is to put together the best team possible, independently if they are young or old, senior or junior, independent from any type of, let's say, stereotype of difference, right? You have to select the best talents for what you have to do. And that's the only way for a manager to succeed, because if you don't have the best team, really the best team, you cannot make it. Now, this is not necessarily what is happening in our normal and day-by-day life, because you have a lot of, boundary conditions that you have to follow in our organization, for sure, in mine. But the point is that here, The Economist, long time ago, a few years ago, there is a very interesting article called "The World of Talents," and it was, a geopolitics description of what could happen if countries or certain countries are not following the idea and the, let's say, the path of collecting the best talents on each topic. And so you see now that there are countries trying to attract good minds, for example, the UAE, in a very clever manner, trying really to bring connecting minds and bringing the best minds in a place to try to leverage on their knowledge and trying to build the future in a better way. So again, no discrimination, no differences. Diversity is an asset. And the more you bring the team that you need together, the more you can succeed.
That's true.
Your thoughts, Charles?
That's true. I agree 100% what she said. We have to go for the talents. And, what I see in education, a couple let's say 10 years from now, or even more, let me connect these two thoughts here. Imagine each one of us. We are different, and this is very good. We are different. We think different ways. We think in different approaches to solve the same problem, and it is important. We have talents. Each one of us, or each kid, has is talent in somehow, in some subject, and we have to find this. We cannot force, for example, a kid that doesn't like, I don't know, mathematics. Okay, you don't like mathematics. Well, of course, you have to have a certain base, but that kid could be wonderful in biology, or could be wonderful in, I don't know, in arts, other things. But you have to find this. And with the education system that we have today, everybody is pretty much the same, has to be tested in the same way, with the same criteria. It's very difficult to find this. You'll see that unbalanced situation. So, my opinion, in the future, with the more advanced artificial intelligence, with more advanced capabilities of knowledge, skills, and attitude. So, if you get this knowledge part here, and get that could be put inside a system where the kid could see him or herself inside a virtual world like a game. And so the system would evaluate the capabilities of the kid. It could give knowledge of the kid according to or according to this. And so since the beginning, so you could take from there the talents. Of course, there are some weak points. Weak points are just important for those things that are critical for the kid to survive in the uncertain conditions of the world. But beside, above that, you don't need, if you don't want to learn, differential equations, because you don't need that every day. But if you're going to engineering side, you're going to need that. And so, if we could do this, imagine independently, as she said, independently of any other condition. If you're poor or rich or women or men, anything, you can get those talents and to do what they want to do. And I think that would help a lot to us to eliminate any kind of differences with this. But of course, we have to get the system in place. And I believe we are on the track of doing this.
That would be very interesting to see how
Yeah.
that would work out. But I want to go back to this idea of how we inherent, like how we carry biases.
Mhm.
And thinking about the system, right? Thinking about if we were to create a system that would data collect in a way, how do we make sure that the system, and even, I mean, even now, data collection is being viewed as being biased
Mhm.
in the way that it's designed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
What do we do? Do we need more women in tech? What do we do?
think about this. Because we have a history in our families, for example, some certain things are passed generation to generation, and a lot of knowledge that we carry with biased um, content inside. So I just a kind of personal situation, but I was lucky enough to have a family. My mother and my father. I say, what they told me was always this: you can do whatever you want to do, or whatever you want to do, you can do it, and do not believe in. Let's say the pessimists, the people that always say, "Oh, this is impossible for you. They say you cannot do this," so they always push up. So that you can do that.
Mm.
You can do that, and that changed my way of thinking. So I said, well, I didn't come from a perfect situation with everything was perfect for you to get a successful in any field. I came from a very poor family, so, but I was able to go because I believe I could. And then I see the same in several aspects. It's something cultural. You have that takes a while to change. You know, the way, imagine a family thinking about women, that people will say, okay, you are a woman, you cannot do this. You want to play soccer? No, soccer is for men. So you cannot play soccer. I was thinking, why not? And so, but sometimes the family and the culture trying to push you to a certain situation, and you feel there, oh, I cannot get out. You can get out. This is the truth. You can get there, do whatever you want.
I know you have something to say.
Yeah, in particular on the point that you mentioned on data, because now with this big data and also systems to try to extract the information you need. A bit ago, I read a book which had a very interesting example that I would like to mention here to understand where the problem is, to help understanding where the problem is. Okay, you have a huge amount of data, for example, from meteorological satellites. Okay,
Yeah.
and you today you want to know which kind of weather you will have, but it's an important information that you can gather for this huge amount of data if you have to go out. But if you have to stay home working, for example, well, it doesn't change if it rains or not, right? Or if it is 40 degrees Celsius or 0 degrees Celsius, you're still home. Yes, probably you have to tune a little bit your heating system, but that's the only difference, right? But if tomorrow you have to go out, then you need to know what's the weather, right? And which kind of dress you want to wear, and if it's raining or not. So you have a huge amount of data, and you have to learn how to select the main question you have to answer in order to find the data you need. So the point is not the issue on the data,
Yeah.
but the way in which you look at data. So
Yeah.
that's the main point. And why I'm underlining this element, because this is true in everything you do. It's not what is happening, is how you deal with what is happening in your life. Okay, the situation is difficult. Women are in an environment which is more difficult for them than for others, or for men. Well, fine, that's the situation. That's the data we have. How we solve the problems we want to solve, which is a balanced representation of women and men in society. Because, and this is something that I'm always saying, if you want to build the best team in the world, you cannot keep half of them
As the best perspective to look at this. Uh, in the scenario that we have, what is the best set of competencies that we have to have in order to have a very good professional for this application here, and independent. And then this is the question. You cannot connect this with if you are a certain way physically, or if you are a man or women or whatever. So you have to have this set of competencies here. So I believe we can, with a cold approach of the needs of the talents, what comprise the talent for this application. We can, as she said, independently of what you what you are, this is something you have to do. So you can choose
Yeah.
that.
But there is something, if I may, Marcus, that you said that it's absolutely key. So the fact that the current system, education system, doesn't allow, first of all, in most of the countries,
Yeah.
it's not, um, doesn't allow to really cherry pick the talents in the various fields, because it's the education system is mainly, I mean, on average, right? But the point is that, for example, if you work in space, it's not only a question of being, I don't know, an astrophysicist or an engineer or I don't know, a mathematician. You need to have skills in diplomacy, because everything is done in international cooperation. You need to have very high, let's say, highly developed skills in psychology. I mean, for example, astronauts, but also, I mean, a manager in the system. Well, you need to be a follower when it's needed, and you need to be a leader when it's needed, and you need to be able to switch from one role to another, which is not as simple as you can imagine. You need to be able to survive in difficult situations, but at the same time, you need to be a leader, able to embrace all the team and bring them toward the same goal. So these are just examples to say that if you want to succeed, it's not enough to have skills in a very specific field, but you need to have quite a broad perspective. And this is where the attitude enters really fully on stage, because the attitude you need to have is mainly the one of learning every single minute of your life. And that's the only way to do our job properly, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
I agree.
attitudes, and that's just not knowledge. Somehow you learn. You can
Yeah.
read.
Yeah.
You can have skills. You can train. Okay, to do anything, but attitude is something that you have to. You sometimes you fall down, and some you have to stand up and keep doing, and so it's you learn as you go and as you pay attention to others.
And I think if I was to apply that to this idea of creating a gender equal world and to feminism and to it's basically, and I think this very much resonates with me personally, because I'm somebody who's always trying to find the root cause of why do we have inequality and why is it, and why does the patriarchy but I think what I'm hearing from you is a very valuable lesson to me, even that regardless ability to pick ourselves up, it is that determination to keep going, to just keep on moving forward, that will enable us then to address the root cause of whatever that we are dealing with and whatever challenge.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you for that. We don't have that much time left, and I do want to give the space for the audience to ask questions, but I do want to ask you one final thing, and it's really about your personal journeys. And my question to you is, what is that one lesson, or what is the one piece of advice, or what is that transformative moment that you have experienced in your life that helped you become the person that you are today?
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. No. See? Marcus.
Okay, I will start here. Let me tell a story. I believe the best way of is that way. Well, as I said, I came from a poor family. My father would be a guy that cleans the floor, the company, like a janitor. And we lived in a very poor part of the city there, Bauru, in Brazil, in São Paulo state. And I had that dream about flying. So I like to I would like to fly. I used to go to the airport, see the airplanes there, but I had no money for the flight lessons. So the pilots there, they told me, go to the Air Force. You can be a pilot there, but that's good. But you have to pass a very difficult test in order to be accepted to the Air Force. So I had to study. And besides that, I had to work to help at home with money. So when I was 14 years old, I got my first job. It was an electrician job. And I didn't have time to do a special course to pass the test in the Air Force. So I used to study in the like free time or leisure time that I had inside the locomotives there. Just turn on the lights inside the maintenance lights, and I was studying the books there. A lot of grease and so on. And one of those days, I got out the locomotive there, and some of my friends, they look, you are always with the book there. What are you studying for? I'm studying to go to the Air Force. I want to be a pilot. So you'll be a pilot. This is impossible for you. This is just for rich people. Never going to be there. Okay. I got really sad that day. I got home. I was there having dinner. My mother, she came from work, and she looked at me. She was Italian, beautiful blue eyes. And she looked at me and said, "Why are you so sad?" I said, "No, why are you so sad?" I told my friends that I want to be a pilot. They told me that this is impossible, such and such. I said, look at those eyes. The eyes I remember the most. They said, "No, in their lives, they can do whatever they want with their lives. You have your life." And I can tell you this, you can be whatever you want in your life if you study, if you work hard, if you persist, and if you always do more than expected from you. And she said that with so much of energy. Still today, I remember her voice, her eyes telling me that. And so I did. So I went to the Air Force, became a pilot, and then a fighter pilot, test pilot, aeronautical engineer, and all my career in the Air Force, and got selected by NASA. And finally, there was this day I was sitting inside a rocket there in Kazakhstan, waiting for takeoff. That situation, yeah, amazing situation. And then got engine started, and 9 minutes after that, I was in space. And when we have the main engine cut off, that everything started floating. I took off my gloves; they were floating in front of me here. And then I opened a little bit the seatbelts and looked at the small window, and I saw the beautiful planet. And people ask me, "What was your first, first thought in space?" Well, my first thought was remembering back there when I was a kid. Telling my friends, "I want to be a pilot." I said, "Well, it's impossible for you. This is just for rich people. You're never going to be there." And then my mother, with the blue eyes, the same color of the planet, saying, "You can be whatever you want in your life if you study, if you work hard, if you persist, and if you always do more than expected from you." So this is I would say, advice for the kids and for everyone that want to do something. Believe in yourself. You can do whatever you want. 4 things to learn. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Simonetta.
Well, first of all, if I may, he wrote a wonderful book. May I?
Yeah.
He wrote a wonderful book with all also the pictures of when he was a kid. So I really.
What's the name of the book?
The mission accomplished.
Oh, okay. Take
That
note,
book.
everybody.
That one, yes.
Oh,
And there was an episode where I was really a kid. Probably I was 4 or 5 years old, and we moved with my parents. We moved apartment, and so in this new apartment there was nothing. It was just an old TV in a corner, no chairs, anything, because we still had to buy the furniture. And so in this place, my father was very often long, long hours at the office. And so I started to write whatever I wanted to write and make, paintings on the doors of the apartment, on the walls. And so my mother was always complaining. My mom said, "Oh, really?" So one evening, she was really upset with me because I was, okay, you can imagine, it was not easy for her to manage. And so my father came back from the office and said, "Okay, but well, my mother was really complaining." And so the day after, my father came home with a small blackboard. I said, "You now write here, please." And I have this wonderful picture where you have this TV in the corner. So it was more or less 50 and something years ago, so a long time ago. So this old TV in the corner and this blackboard and myself writing on the blackboard. It's really interesting because it was the moment in which my father understood that it was the time of giving me the tools for doing what I wanted to do. And my father has always been, my mother is really great, but he understood that I had this spark. And this was, yes, more or less when I was 4 or 5. And this was the moment in which I understood that, yes, something impossible is just an opinion.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for
you.
sharing your wisdom, for sharing your stories, for allowing us to get to know you a little bit better, for sharing your advice about this important issue as well. Space. How do we explore it? How do we make sure women are there when we do? I want to open up the floor to our audience. We have about 8 minutes left. We have a question in the back.
Hello, hi. My name is Silvio Aquino. I'm a UNDP consultant in Brazil working with the Brazilian Space Agency. And my question is to Simonetta. So, Simonetta, thank you for sharing your story. I'm very interested. You said that you said being a woman was never a showstopper for you, which is amazing. But I was wondering if there were any additional challenges that you found in finding your way in your career that you saw just for being a woman, and if so, which ones they are. And my second question is related to actually focus on what advice would you give for tackling this issue from a developing country perspective. So we know that most challenges on gender inequality happen and come from developing countries. And this is where sort of the greatest part of the population still is. And you said we need sort of to pick talents from everywhere. So which might be sort of the question, what are the three things or three themes or challenges that you would pick to actually tackle this issue from a developing country perspective? Thank you.
Thank you.
So to the first question is easy. A lot of them. I had plenty of issues being a woman, and sometimes at the very beginning, I had my very first episode that I can consider, yes, quite a discriminating one, was that when after I defended my thesis, I wanted to continue because I did, I was analyzing spectra from European Space Agency satellite at that time. So I started very, very early and really with something hard from a scientific perspective. And then I visited the professor that was I was working on my thesis, and I said, okay, I would like now to spend some time in a different country, for example, United States. There is fellowship available. I would like to continue my research there. And then he told me, well, I have just one fellowship. I defended my thesis at the same time with another astrophysicist in Italy, now quite famous. I'm Italian by nationality, and so it's a good friend of mine, by the way. That didn't change the relationship between myself and my colleague. But still, he said, okay, you're going to get married, you will have kids, so this fellowship for you is a waste for the system. And so my reaction at that time, and I was young because I just, my master was 23. I said, okay, so I decided to, and that is a system that I'm using more and more. I've been using the same system for all my career. When I have a problem like this one, I isolate myself, and I don't talk to anyone, and I try to focus on the problem. So the problem, I
decompose the problem in various pieces just to find the only pieces I have to focus on. So, and then when this is done, I can find the solution. And still, I do it when I have to take important decisions, both on a personal and professional level. Right now, it works very well. It takes a few days. In that case, was the first one, so it took 3 weeks. And my parents were quite a bit scared because I stopped talking. I was focusing on my problem. And the solution was, okay, I'm not giving up. I want to have a job. My point was I want to have a job that will allow me to learn every day. If that one is not the track I can follow now, something will happen. And 1 year and a half later, I joined the Italian Space Agency. And from a psychological perspective, I believe I can define myself as a fighter. If I have a problem, I want to solve it. And I want to solve it for me, for my family, so from a personal standpoint, but also from a professional perspective. I always try to do everything I do at the maximum of my abilities. So more I can't. So, and this is something that helps me in managing everything with a certain, I want to say relaxed mode, because, our life is not relaxed at all, but is a way of tackling these issues. And that's the way in which I've been managing all the other issues, I mean, discriminatory nature or other nature in my professional personal life. What we do, I mean, my experience, I cannot deny that helps also in shaping all the activities that I've been doing in supporting the gender balance and trying to find a better role for women in society. So that's the reason why I co-founded Women in Aerospace in 2009. That's the reason why I am a strong supporter of Space for Women project at the UN, where we are exactly targeting, in particular, emerging and developing countries. And so the main features of the program are really focusing on that. And now we are adding something that is more on the kids side. It's called Kids Reaching Star, where we have 5 sub-projects. One is training the trainers that was Marcus was mentioning. One is Astro Girls, which is focusing on kids up to 12, 13 years old of female gender. And one that is particular in my heart is for kids with disabilities, because we have to consider that we really have to be as open, as inclusive as possible. I hope that with this, that my personal experience, I'm sure that my personal experience is really helping us and the office to shape these projects in a way that are helpful. It's a long way to go. We cannot solve everything in like that, but I believe we are on the right track.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Any other questions? Yes. We have a mic. Please.
On one side, it's going to be
Right here.
Well, my name is Bernardo Milano, and I work with Minister Marcos Pontes. And one question. On one side, you say you're paying close attention to the kids and for the future. But actually, we have a problem. Today, we have a problem. It's the crystal ceiling effect. Every institution has this problem. We have less women in leading positions. And how we can work out, to fix that? Because it's a medium-term, long-term, and a short-term question that we have to answer to be more effective. So how would you suggest for us to work out, to try to minimize this problem?
Can I add to
Start
that
with you.
question?
Yeah.
It could be,
Yes, please. And I want to add to that. And, we've talked about the strategies. How do we close the educational gap? How do we persist and keep going and tell women to believe in themselves, to just keep on moving forward? is that transformative measure that you see happening that could put more women in leadership position? Thank you for that question.
It's, in my opinion, if I may, if we want to do it well, is not something that we can do in a very short period of time. Because first of all, you have, at least in our fields, you have a number of women entering the field that is 20%. So today, at least in Europe, but also in other countries, average, you have 25% is already quite high. And these figures are the same, have been the same in the last 30 years. Because the number of women entering the STEM fields is low, and therefore, at least in our field, the number of women can go higher in leadership position is low. I mean, it's a percentage issue. So that's the first point. And that's the reason why we are really focusing on trying to stimulate at high level, at high, around, you know, when students are around at high school, or students who start, I mean, we really need to push women, try to increase awareness of the importance of STEM education also in women when they are still kids. What can we do now? It's a big question mark, because there are several measures that we see implemented. I'm a little bit in favor of, let's say, I hate discrimination of any kind. So in a way, discriminating to help one part of the society and discriminate the other part is, from an ethical perspective, at least for me, a little bit, I feel uncomfortable, let's put it like that. However, if you look at the gender gap report of the World Economic Forum, the last one, the estimation is that we can reach in society a gender balance in 136 years. And 2 or 3 years ago was 100.
Yeah.
Which means that it's not even getting better, it's getting worse.
Yeah.
Now, this is obviously not only in our sector, is more general, let's say, evaluation or review of the situation, but it means that we need urgently to find solutions which, in my opinion, cannot go against another category in society. It must be still a no discriminatory approach,
So
whatever
no
we
quota
decide.
system? So no quota system?
It's difficult, huh? It's difficult. We cannot, in my opinion, really, from my heart, it's difficult to discriminate someone.
Even positively.
Yeah, if you discriminate someone to have a better situation for others, you are redoing the same mistake which was done with us. So I feel that it's probably not the right way to go. But we have to take measures, and collectively.
Any measures you can think of?
Yes, I agree with Simonetta in many points, of 100%. And if you think, what I see is 2 parts. It's a system, first of all. When you have a system, you cannot solve a problem just with one action or one procedure. You have to have a systematic approach to solve system problems. And I see 2 major parts here. One is the education side, that we have to improve the education, the science, technology, to get more kids, and more girls in STEM. This is one part. Then you have like
large
a
basis,
group,
yeah.
a bigger group, so you can probability of having more women in leadership is much bigger when you have a bigger group. That's true. It's just completely 100%. Other side I see is the culture. And when you talk about culture, culture is difficult to change, especially because there's so many aspects connected to this, depending on the country, depending on so many things. Culture is a big issue to solve. And this affects the men and the women. So in order to change this, I agree with her. There's certain things works in the side, I say, in contrary what we intend to do. Any system, again, remember I work with systems as an engineer, so I see this. Any system, when you force a system in one direction, there's a natural response of the system to fight back. And so you have, for example, a big increase here, and then you have a overshoot, and then you have to adapt to this in a certain level here, depending on the system. And that is not good because during the time that you have a cultural adaptation or cultural changing, when you force things like this, sometimes you get the response that I don't want to do this. And so people are more worried about the gender and to make this to be right, and then okay, that doesn't work, and then you get even worse. But if you think, as you said, about the talent, about there's no discrimination. Everybody's the same. So you can have, I believe, you can have a better result. Example, in the ministry, we have 16 research institutions connected. We have 27 total, and 16 are research centers connected directly to the ministry. From those 16 institutions, I have, and not because I made this to happen. Well, let me get this one. No, but I happen to have half is women, half is men, the directors. I have one of them here, so INPI, but half and half. And that they called my attention. Oh, you did that? So no, I didn't. But that happens. And so, and this, I think, is the best way of getting equilibrium, getting the stable system without forcing anything. Because, as I said at the beginning, everybody has talent, and you just have to find a way of getting this talent and get the cultural aspects out of this. And this will take a while. Though, imagine, and as I said, the home, the mother say, you cannot. I say the soccer because my daughter is a soccer player. So imagine if I got to her and said, you cannot play soccer because this is a main thing. Why? And so she's an excellent soccer player, actually. And now she's a medical doctor as well, but she got all the scholarship in playing soccer in college and so on.
Oh, wow.
And why not?
Yeah.
And if you say sometimes to some certain places that, oh, my daughter is a soccer player, and look at them, is that true? Yes. Why not? And this is why every field where
Absolutely.
women is not I would say the major player still, like pilots, fighter pilots, for example. Why not? Astronauts, we're getting there.
Yeah, but there is something that what we are trying to say is to be linked to something that is true for us, but should be true for all the leaders selecting people and putting together teams. You need to be open and without bias. You need to have, a view of life that is exactly the one we have. Because otherwise, discrimination in a way or another will enter into the process. But if you instead look at what you really need, and you don't look at if it's young, old, as I said already, women, men, whatever, you need to build the talent, the team you need, well, without bias, and encouraging men and women, because then at the very end is true for both, to do what they want to do and to really try to commit to the best life they want, well, probably this issue or challenge can be tackled quicker than we can expect.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I think we have reached our time. I don't want to keep you longer. I know you have a
It's
very
always a
busy
pleasure
day.
in any case.
I really have enjoyed the conversation. I think you've given us great wisdom. I do hope that you get to learn about the UAE while you're here a little bit more. I think that the model we have followed in this country, our leaders have committed themselves to empowering women from the inception of this country. Education was something very high on their priority. I think in STEM also we have more women than men. 56% of STEM graduates are women. Our mission to Mars was led by a woman. Most of her team, the scientists, were women. So perhaps there is something there that I should be looking at and learning from as well. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being here with us today, for coming, for watching, for listening. We will see you at the Women's World Measures.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.